Oh, hey. Um, my dogs are going crazy. Another dog exists out back, and they're just going nuts. Hopefully, you can't hear. I brushed my hair. I put on pants. I'm not wearing a bra. You can't make me. And we're gonna get into it. We're gonna. This is Ken Ham versus Bill Nye, really versus me, I guess. Part one. We're gonna start at. I'm linking the original thing. Yes, at the Creation Institute or whatever they call it. Answers in Genesis, I think, is his platform. It's fine. Go there. It's already at 9 point some million views. A couple off my channel won't matter one way or another. So we're starting that video at 2:49, 2 minutes 49 seconds, stopping at about 13 minutes 21 seconds. That's what we're going to cover for this purpose. Like if I were a bigger channel with editors and producers and technology, maybe we could show the debate. I'm not going to do that. The debate is already almost 3 hours long, and so watch it on your own time. Um, Good. So the first 5 minutes of Bill Nye, the first 5 minutes of Ken Ham, um, these are opening statements. They're kind of beginning to lay out, hopefully, the case that they're going to make through the course of the video. But we already have just an absolute avalanche of bullshit from Ken Ham. Bill barely addressed any of it, as I thought I remembered. He barely touches on anything Ken Ham actually says, at least in these first 10 minutes. But yeah, we have more than 5 minutes, and so we have time to deconstruct it. Is that fair? Is that fair? Are debates fair when one side gets more time than the other side? Well, it's more fair because, look, short form arguments tend to advantage fascists, and memory serving, which it so rarely does, I'll try and link. I'll link my like 1 minute version of that for you in the sort of down belows there. Um, it has a name. It's called the liar's dividend. You get to assert a bunch of stuff really fast, and it takes up a lot of time and a lot of background to refute each false statement. The other side of the debate then gets taken up, refuting maybe one or two of the falsehoods that you spewed in your 5 minutes. And then on those one or two things, it looks like a 50-50 issue to most people. Well, Kim says this, but Bill says that. And who's to say who's right? And then there's a bit from John Oliver, which I'll also try to link about the climate change thing. And the rest of the bull crap goes completely unrefuted. It just lays there on the floor, steaming. White nationalist propagandist Steve Bannon refers to this as flooding the zone. Actually, on reflection, he calls a lot of stuff flooding the zone. Maybe he just likes football metaphors. That's another story. So I'm going to unpack as much as I can. And is that fair? And in the spirit of debate, debate is in bad faith anyway. Debate is rhetoric. It's about changing minds on an issue, not raising the level of information so that everyone can adequately and competently make their own decisions. Uh, is there any point doing this over an 8-year-old propaganda video? Probably not. Ken Ham and his minions are not about to change their minds. Most people interested in this are probably young Earth creationists and assorted trolls and alt-right Nazis who are going to try and ratio this video and ratio the channel and clog up the comments with bad faith nonsense until I end up closing the comments, which limits my reach, and so on. If there's any hope, it's that a few people will see that debates are not a good means of pursuing truth, that short form arguments favor emotion, rhetoric, and lies, and maybe learn some of the specific logical errors that bad faith arguers use as tactics. I'll also show how Bill Nye's arguments are totally inadequate. I suspect he thought he was being presented in good faith when in fact he was being set up. Bill, I love you. To begin, Ken Ham um, says, I believe the word science has been hijacked by secularists. And most of the 2,500 remaining words of script are going to be about this one sentence. I believe the word science has been hijacked by secularists. Ken put science into air quotes here. This is a basic language game, you know? Um, the reason Wittgenstein ended up hating philosophy and regretting writing a book on it. Americans who speak English don't all speak the same English. When media monitors decry fake news, Trump and his team pick up the word and use it to describe any criticism of Trump. The basic logical error here is called equivocation. Get to that in a second. But there's a much deeper game being played, doublespeak. Take all of the words in English that can be used to criticize you and create a culture that uses those words in a different sense until there are no critical words left. The in group becomes literally incapable of hearing opposition because the language precludes the possibility of criticism. Ken, man, Ken Ham jumps around. I don't know his state of mind, but it doesn't seem logical. I don't know if this is to baffle the opposition or if Ken himself is disorganized, but he jumps from here to a couple of examples of people who are arguably scientists because they have published papers and they have invented things. This argument is that creationism is science because some scientists are creationists. Some teeth are incisors, and all incisors are teeth. That is a logical statement. Some teeth are incisors, therefore, all incisors are teeth. That is a totally different argument. In the first case, you have two assertions. Both can be true, they can be true independently. In the second, though, we're saying one causes the other. We know incisors are all teeth because here are some examples of teeth that are incisors, and that is spurious. Things can be both spurious and true. There's just no reason to believe it based on this statement. Let's look at Ken's statement again. Some scientists are creationists, therefore, all creationism is science. The end of his opening is the Bible says stuff, therefore, the Bible is true. If all creationists are science, are we saying that reading the Bible is science? We're not even done with that sentence. Oh my God. I believe the word science has been hijacked by secularists. I believe is great to shout in church, but absolutely useless in argument. Logical argument, anyway, absent testimony. Is there any way that Ken could believe things, even believe them very strongly, and build his personality around them and be totally wrong? Dude, it happens. It happens all the time. There is just no correlation between the strength of belief and the veracity of belief. Hijacked. That is a loaded term. That is an accusation. There was this innocent word just lying around, science. And science meant any kind of knowledge according to the Greeks. Then secularists changed the meaning of the word to mean only non-supernatural things. Like, that's fundamentally not what happened. The first observational scientists in the Western world were believers. It's not that humanity started with a lack of faith and imposed atheism on science. It's that rigorous observations, A, failed to demonstrate any supernatural entities, B, actively disproved supernatural explanations, and C, failed to disprove natural explanations. An entire video dedicated entirely to postmodern empiricism, and again, if I remember that area, Jesus Christ, if I do this for the entire 3-hour video, it's going to be bloody exhausting, as well as exhaustive. Ham says molecules to man evolution a few times. This is another meaningless word game. The formal logical error is, I don't know, probably a reduction to the absurd. He wants to simplify evolution to a few apparently refutable claims and then confuse the audience into believing that he has refuted them. But there is, again, a deeper and more fascist game being played. Knowledge is modeled in neural networks. If I tell you a lie, you make a neural network for that lie. Later, when I tell you the truth, the network for that lie can persist. This is the law of primacy. Things you learn incorrectly are often difficult to overcome with new knowledge later. Take the case of negative reinforcement. You learned in Ghostbusters 1985 and The Big Bang Theory, I forget what year, that negative reinforcement is electric shocks that dissuade future incidents of a behavior. In fact, that's called positive punishment. We don't need another word for punishment. We already have a word for punishment. It's punishment. Negative reinforcement means removing an aversive stimulus as a reward for desirable behavior to make that behavior more likely. Like, you have a headache, you take an aspirin, the pain goes away. Next time you have a headache, you reach for the aspirin. Or like, you get in the car, you fire up the engine, the car makes a horrible buzzing sound, and you, oh, my seatbelt, you click the thing, horrible buzzing sound stops. Next time you get in the car, you're more likely to click the thing. I can tell my intro psych class 20 times in a term, and a third of them will still get it wrong on the final because they learned it wrong to begin with. Law of primacy. So this is true for factual information. It's also true for feelings and associations. When Trump campaigns, he identifies potential opposition and then gives them nicknames: Sleepy Joe, Little Marco, Low Energy Jeb, whatever. It's the words, but also the mocking, derisive tone. Tucker Carlson does it all with his eyebrows. That weird expression he goes. We're the in-group. They're the out-group. The outside, the enemy. Later, when a potential voter meets Marco Rubio, Marco has this tremendous hurdle to overcome. The voter has been pre-programmed to respond with derision and dislike and so on. So creationists create this second language, not just the doublespeak of co-opting existing words, but creating new words to describe their enemies, labeling people not just with the words, but with the derision. A scientist is a secularist. They hate us. We're the in-group under threat from that out-group of secularists. Wow, that was a lot of minutes on one line of speech. I hope you're starting to see how these short-form rhetorical arguments actually lead away from truth. The next snowball in this avalanche of bullshit. Ham divides science into historical and observational science. He further conflates observational science with invention and technology. Now, anyone who invents things is a scientist, which means presumably he can tap a bunch of creationists who are inventors and call them scientists, and then say creationism is science. But his claim is we can't know what happened in the past because we weren't there, so any scientific endeavor to understand evolution is off limits. Should I link that too? I have a in less than a minute one. Maybe. This is really the one thing in this argument that Bill Nye actually responds to. He just says politely and with no drama that nobody but Ken makes this distinction. All science is observational. We can know about the past by observing the present, deriving laws, and making inferences. Cool. That should, I think, be the end of the debate. That's it. If memory serves, as it so often no longer does, Ken's entire thesis is the Bible is true. It tells us about the past. Science can't tell us about the past, therefore, creation. And like vegetarian dinosaurs and crap. Oh my god. The end, I'm going to stick to this script because it's already long enough. The end of Ken's opening statement is, in fact, to this point. Science can't because you weren't, but the Bible. Something about sin? I don't see how it's even relevant to human origins at all. Adam was a sinner. Jesus died for our sins. Therefore, creation? What? This is at best a spurious argument, and at worst, Ken's just really disorganized and not actually capable of logical thought. But look, if I can't know about the past by deriving natural laws and making inferences because I wasn't there, then you can't know about the past by reading the Bible because you weren't there either. At this point, we should just dust our hands and walk away. Unless there's some good factual, observable reason to believe God itself wrote the Bible, and that being God is honest and so on, which hasn't yet been asserted in this debate, let alone demonstrated, the argument's over and the rest is tap dancing. God, now I'm dancing around. The word stealing point. He goes on to say at 634, science textbooks conflate observational and historical science. They outlaw supernatural explanation and are therefore imposing atheism. They are imposing, quote, they are imposing the religion of naturalism or atheism on students, end quote. Wow. Wow. In fact, Christians themselves made themselves atheists by studying the universe in good faith. By sticking to the rules of reason, observation, and intellectual honesty, you just end up ruling out creation myths and much else about the Bible. Gresham College's Alec Reary, kind of the seat of the Royal Institute, tells this whole story in a wonderful series that I commend to you, and memory serving, right, in that kind of zone. Science textbooks preclude the supernatural as the claim, and are therefore some kind of atheist propaganda. The thing is, the supernatural claims are religion specific, so imposing them would violate the First Amendment, teach your religion to my children, and they are roundly debunked and do not conform with observations and just aren't mentioned in textbooks. Evolution is true. Natural, sexual, and group selection are the theories, and theory likely doesn't mean what Ken thinks it means. Science class is about telling the truth to the extent that truth can be ascertained. This statement's just a smear. Science class is trying to make your children atheist. The more educated a country, the more it tends toward atheism, but the goal of science isn't atheism. It's an observable, humble, honest, reproducible attempt to distill the truth. So back to that claim that creationists can be great scientists. There are no great scientists. There are only claims that withstand or do not withstand scrutiny. In science, we avoid arguments to celebrity or notoriety. One of Ham's buddies he flashed on the screen has, allegedly, I've not yet looked, 130 publications. Cool. Impressive even if they turn out to be legitimate. But none of them, or even all of them, make him great. We don't appeal to the authority of the author. We appeal to the peer reviewed nature of the publication, the reputation of the journal, and the position of ideas in scientific consensus. If the ideas aren't in consensus, we need a very good reason why not, and a lot of replication. It's terribly exciting when a non consensus idea turns out to be true. We love it. Scientists love it. We live for those moments. But you have to be very cautious about asserting against consensus. Scientists should be very cagey about the claims they make. Their data need to be in order, their interpretations valid, and uncertainty controlled in manners conceivable and initially inconceivable. A scientist starts with an agnostic attitude, not toward God. God isn't even interesting to most science, exactly because it's an unfalsifiable proposition. Agnostic toward everything. We don't make claims and attempt to prove them true. We assert a hypothesis and attempt to prove it false. If it withstands such attempts, we can begin to assert a provisional truth. Creationism, biblical literalism, does the opposite. It starts with a truth claim, then works backwards through the facts, through the evidence, accepting those facts that reinforce the initial position, rejecting those that don't. Paul Tillich said faith is belief in the presence of doubt, but science is doubt in the presence of doubt. You cannot be a scientist and a creationist. You can do science, you can get published, you can make contributions, you can invent things, toaster ovens and whatever, but in the end, you lack the intellectual honesty to address big issues from a scientific perspective. God damn it, that's not even all. I missed the most important part. Because the way he says it, Ham, in my script, it says insinuates. He doesn't insinuate it, he says it straight out. Science is just another religion, and atheism is just another religion. The BS per minute is so high, it's easy to miss stuff and let it stand. I've committed to trying not to let it stand, though. So let's go. The ultra-right biblical literalists keep saying this. Ultimately, science comes down to faith. Science is just another religion. You have your faith in Darwin, I have mine in the Bible. You have your faith in instruments, I have mine in still the Bible. I don't even know what the argument is supposed to be for atheism, which by definition is a lack of faith and cannot possibly be a religion. It's the absence of religion. The thing is this. I have a less than a minute version of this that I might link. But no, just no. No. Scientists try to arrive without a preconception. Here's a phenomenon. What could explain it? Let's develop an explanatory framework that rests on observations. There's some basis for proposing this and not that. Now let's make predictions based on that framework and attempt to prove them false. The scientist ideally is skeptical of everything, especially their own beliefs. We aren't getting told what's true from the top down and believe it because it was written down a long time ago. We don't worship Darwin. He was wrong about all kinds of stuff and also hardly knew anything because he didn't have any molecular science to draw on. Rather, we're shown the history of science, including all the mistakes and all of the hoaxes built down man, then the state of science as it stands, including all of the experiments that led to this state of knowledge and all of the controversies that surround this state of knowledge. What else could explain it? What more work needs to be done? What's the primary criticism of this? This is all the opposite of any good faith definition of religion. Science is not a religion. The formal logical error here is false equivalence. If science and the Bible are equal ways of knowing, then the choice between them is an aesthetic one. You choose your thing, I choose mine. But they're not equivalent. They're not remotely equivalent. There's also this problem of the Dunning-Kruger effect. I did the briefest possible intro to evolution in class so that we could talk about evolutionary psychology, which is a somewhat problematic discipline. This is a few years ago on the campus that shares a parking lot with a megachurch and a conservative high school. And one of the students, a middle aged guy, goes, "Yeah, you look at fossils and see the shapes of bones. I look at them and just see rocks." Like, we're just interpreting clouds? This is the alt right flood the zone tactic again. Fill up all of the social media with arguments, culture war, dis and misinformation, obvious lies, so that people can't see what's true and what isn't. Reduce all knowledge to opinion, then the voters just have to go with their guts. They're racist, sexist, homophobic, transphobic, xenophobic guts. It's not a coincidence that Ham also hates everyone on the GLBTIQA plus spectrum. Fossils obviously aren't just weird shaped rocks. We can find cell structures in them, fragments of DNA, soft tissue, very rarely, but sometimes impressions of feathers and fur. These are not Rorschach plates, but fundamentalists keep people so in the dark with their in group, out group tactics that people never bother to read any biology or take any classes, or if they're forced to, they never bother to trust the teacher or the professor is a good faith actor and not someone there to smother religion for some ulterior motive. Alt-right students come to class all the time and they learn all of the right answers to check on the tests, but never believe anything that they're learning. What about Bill Nye? I think I'm done. I think I'm done with Ken Ham. 27 minutes and 17 seconds in. It took 27 minutes to just start talking about Ken Ham's tactics. Oh my God. What about Bill Nye? Bill Nye's a nice man. I love him. He comes out to talk to these people as if it's an honor. He's being honored by being asked to come here and do this. And like, it's not a publicity stunt to raise money for the Ark encounter. He's pleased to be there. He's friendly. He's even ingratiating. He opens with a funny story, like it's the Toastmasters or something. Bill's not a debater. He's an educator. I have the same makeup. I don't think on my feet and I can get led off topic really easily. And you can play to my emotions and piss me off and shut down my ability to do the education. So, I don't know, he tells some weird story about his grandfather wearing a bow tie. The point is to illustrate that stories might be true or false. He could have just said that. Um, Man, he could have hit a lot harder. I don't know who was the audience in the room, but the video's been seen more than 9 million times just through the Answers in Genesis page. And there's a couple of like short forms with the moderator taken out they're much faster to look at. Bill refutes the claim that science is observational or historical. I didn't remember him doing many direct responses, and here's one, so good. Good. I'm pleased about that. But he does it so weirdly. Referencing the popular at the time show CSI and doing a joke about, CSI Dayton or something, I forget. Just saying there's too many CSI spinoffs. Then he puts up a slide to gently mock the Noah's Ark story and says the Grand Canyon refutes that tale. Something that I think is going to come back later. Memory, whatever. Finally, Bill says America's a world leader because of our technology, new ideas, and innovation. So messing around with science is a bad idea. Neil deGrasse Tyson says the same thing often. The creation model isn't viable. America's a leader because of our technology, new ideas, and innovation. Messing around with science is a bad idea. Therefore, the creation model isn't viable. And that's spurious. Sorry, that's spurious. The formal argument, the formal logical error here is argument to consequences. That is, if we believe in biblical literalism, people will laugh at us and will become the society in idiocracy. Wonderful movie. Well, maybe, maybe that's true, in fact. But what is that to do with the truth of the claim? The claim is true or false. The Bible is true or false independently of the consequences of the Bible being true or false. Lots of true claims have terrible, terrible consequences. If we believe in climate change, we'll have to fundamentally restructure the American economy to save our own lives. But the climate is changing. Independently of our belief in it, independently of the consequences to the economy, the climate is changing. Bill's nice. I have all the respect in the world and so on. But this opening statement's just totally inadequate. Oh my God, how bleeding long have I spent on this now? It was, it was only 10 minutes to view the relevant portion, but 2 hours to script this out. And I've spent 31 and a half minutes talking Christ on a jalopy. For one of these segments, I'm going to have to research methods for dating fossils because of an obvious bad faith argument that I remember Bill Nye just blowing past. Ken is going to say, if I remember, when you use different dating methods, radiometric and carbon, and he puts up a bunch of them up on the screen, and he says they give completely different answers, and now I have to go, I think I know the reason for this. I'm going to have to go and look at the ones he puts up and look at how they work. And then I think there's a perfectly normal explanation for this and the arguments in bad faith. That's going to, I'm going to spend hours researching this stuff and hours recording it. And for what? I don't know. I don't know why you people even watch this crap. Anyway, that is it for the first 10 minutes of the opening statements of the debate. I've been the Black Bill. Okay, bye.